Castle Drachenfels, realm of the Great Enchanter. Stories of this mythical necromancer, known far and wide as the Nameless, have frightened imperial scholars and children for centuries. Whatever the truth of the man, the dangers of his fortress are very real. It is a place shunned by even the most hardened explorers and corrupt creatures of the Grey Mountains. But as rumors of an artifact of terrible power surface, it is a stronghold that can be suffered no longer. In truth, it should have been destroyed many times before, and the history books will say that it was. But always, the castle has reappeared, a festering wound in the surrounding lands that will not heal, a darkness with a will and personality all its own. The spirit of Drachenfels lies dormant here, watching, waiting for a time when he can feed on the world again. The forces of order have come to tear this place down brick by bloody brick, and with Ariel, Durthu, Volkmar the Grim, and Ungrim Ironfisted in charge, they might very well have the might to do it. But the undead stir in their crypts, and they aren't so willing to part with the dark magic that swells within. Before it's all said and done, 10,000 troops will battle over these walls, one of the most impressive custom siege maps we've seen in quite some time. So strap in, and let's get this party started. As Vlad, Mannfred, Heinrich Kemmler, and Krell defend their winter vacation home, and the Empire, Dwarfs, and Wood Elves seek to destroy it. Quite the special video today, playing on this custom map beautifully handcrafted by FSF Ranger, an iconic redoubt nestled deep in the Grey Mountains, and a 40-minute siege scenario swarming across it. Not something you see every day on Total War Warhammer 2, battle that lasts this long, and it was a good one, so stick around, grab some Cheez-Its, and let's say goodbye to the worst year ever as we usher in the glorious new age of 2021. It's the Dwarfs, Empire, and Wood Elves tossing aside old rivalries and beating up on some undead skelly boys, uniting under a common banner to wipe Drachenfels and his undead minions off the face of the planet for good. Hopefully. Also my first Total War video ever with the 3080, so we'll see how it holds up. And we'll get a good look at the map itself. Two sets of sturdy walls mortared with the bones of those who died trying to claim it as their own, lined with towers that fire ghoulish spirits that will rip a soul straight from its mortal housing, and a formidable citadel at the very top. I will say the Vampire Coast and Gunpowder factions would probably have a better time defending a castle like this one. Could get some vicious enfilade fire and creeping barrages in the streets leading up to the main plaza, but the Vampire Counts of Sylvania and the Barrow Legion still have some tricksy traps and a staggered defense ready to receive these invaders. And attackers got their work cut out for them here. So do I. Gotta commentate this for 40 minutes. Flex those vocal cords and see how they hold up. Fell bats early on, Tempest on them, trying to get rid of these fast movers. Don't want those jumping on top the Empire artillery or the Dwarf cannon crews as this battle gets underway, so might as well take them off the field early. Hawks going into melee, they'll finish them off for good. And it looks like the Wood Elves are full vanguard, way ahead of the main force, with the Empire and Dwarfs bringing up the rear. Durthu already into the action, dropping that Sword of Daith and pulling it from the stone like Excalibur. Glade Riders coming up behind, and Ariel the Mage Queen ready to unleash some magics upon the Vampire Counts of Sylvania. Shadows Caster overhead, and Mannfred von Karstein on his Zombie Dragon. They've got to worry about those Hawk Riders and the Forest Dragon. Could get a little bit scary for them. The Emperor's finest steam tank and a Fire Mage bringing up the rear alongside some war wagons. And the Wood Elves are going straight in. They'll be the first into the breach. They'll open it up for the rest of the attackers. And we'll be waiting a while for that Dwarf and Empire artillery to make their way up the causeway and towards those walls and gates where they can actually do some good. Ariel dropping darts of doom, fighting alongside a Treeman Ancient and Durthu, and zombie summons will be the name of the game for the Vampire Counts. There are 5 Necromancers and 3 Vampire Lords and Heroes. All of them have raised dead. So the Defender strategy is essentially a war of attrition. Force the attackers through wave after wave after wave of zombies, get Durthu, Ariel, and all the high-value targets for the attackers real tired, real exhausted, and then send in the big boys. But of course, the only way you can use cavalry on a map like this one is to get aggressive with it, and the Blood Knights and Black Knights looking to fight outside the main gate. see what kind of damage they can do. They're going up against Durthu and a Tree Man Ancient Forest Dragon supporting, so they'll have to be careful, but they should be able to retreat if things get a little bit hairy, and they will. So, aggression coming out early, Blood Knights and Black Knights alongside the Black Coach, and Mannfred von Karstein on his Zombie Dragon, going straight in. Dryads will receive the charge, and it's going to look pretty painful for them. A little bit of support coming from the battlements. Those ghoulish spirit shots landing from the arrow towers above. Durthu and the Tree Man Ancient alongside Ariel pushing forward towards that main gate. Now, the attackers have a couple choices here. They could go for the walls with their steam tanks and artillery, take them down, or they could just shoot at the main gate as the steam tank is doing at the moment. Don't think these Dryads are going to do too well, but Lamentations of Despair, giving them perhaps a bit of cover and causing very little sadness or despair in and amongst the veteran vampire elite. And the Knights of Blood Keep, who make their home very close to Castle Drachenfels, actually gearing up for another glorious charge. Big Dart of Doom from Ariel in her war aspect, unleashing a wrath on these unnatural undead abominations, skewering 6 or 7 warriors outright. That was a really nice magic missile from her. And speaking of magic missiles, fireballs hitting, well, trying to hit Mannfred von Karstein. I think the vampire lady just took that to the face instead. She is simping hard for her boy Mannfred von Karstein and the bald Fred abomination floating above. Yeah, that was impressive. She just straight up said, you know what, I don't want you taking this fireball. I will take it for you instead. That was pretty hot. I don't know why I can't have hot vampire ladies put their lives on the line for me. No one's ever seen a fireball about to immolate poor indie pride and jumped in front of the inferno to save my life. Honestly, dude, why even live when vampire waifus aren't a real thing? Like, there's just no point in continuing on. It's over. Another zombie summon coming from the vampire accounts. Ariel running through them. She's so badass in her war aspect. I really like the model. I don't know why she always gets knocked over like that, though. I mean, the Black Coach just completely discombobulated her with a rear charge, and it's like half her size. But the Cav have had enough. They have moved all the way back inside. Their heralds beating the retreat drums, breaking out the rusty trombones, and moving further inside the Citadel for a bit of a breather. They did not want to fight Durthu and get pinned up alongside the ramparts without any support, so the Crypt Horrors and the zombie waves are waiting just inside the gate, while Ariel, Durthu, and the Tree Man Ancient slaughter the rest of the poor fools left outside. I don't think they mind too much. They're zombos, and the Black Coach should be able to escape as well. So, these are the reinforcements. A Terror Goosen, the second Necromancer, bunch of skeletons, and Vargulfs waiting, more Black Knights, more Blood Knights, and a bit of a spectral ambush hiding behind the cliffs over here. Looks like the Chillgeist and some Karen Wraiths ready to spring their trap. Fellbats and Graveguard waiting at the last rampart, and an entire wing of flyers from the von Karstein subfaction ready to swoop in from above. We'll see what they do. Empire just made it to the first walls. They are very slow. Forest Dragon and Durthu beginning to beat up on the gate itself. The Dryads probably going to rout soon. And another zombie summon. Expect to see a lot of that this game. As I said, there are 8 lords and heroes that are capable of summoning them. We'll see probably 3,000 or 4,000 zombies alone just from summons. That's going to get pretty insane, which is fitting because that's what Warhammer does well. Big soporific breath coming in from the Forest Dragon on top of the Tithe. Did about 4,000 damage there. Got himself about 50 or so kills. Forest Dragon going down, clearing off the zombies off the top of those walls. The Dryads establishing a bit of a beachhead. But really, they just need to tear down those walls. Mr. Gorbachev, get rid of them. It's time for the cannons, the war wagons, and the steam tanks to make sure that the attackers have a stronghold and can easily plunge through. The gate won't be enough. There's a bunch of Crypt Horrors about to receive the charge, but whatever comes to those gates, they will hold this line, and that's a fact. Because unlike the Gondorian defenders from Lord of the Rings Return of the King, zombies don't care when a big scary monster pops through those gates. They just hold the line. Now, they'll die quickly, but that's the problem entirely. Vampire Lady decided to fight that Forest Dragon mano, and a big burning head coming down, and that could do so much damage. And instead, it hit piece of terrain that didn't exist. That should not have happened. That was really unlucky, actually. I think it hit some invisible hitbox off the wall that was branching off from that, and it should have gone in a straight line instead. Went at a 90-degree angle and did a lot less damage than it probably should have. But Durthu and the Treeman Ancient are into the clutches of the vampiric defenders now, and the undead hordes are swarming, trying to get those big boys out of the gate, force them backwards, and they will do so. I think both the trees realize that it's a little bit early for them to be plunging into the thick of it. Now, there are a lot of heals that could go their way. There's a big reason why you bring Ariel, the Mage Queen, alongside Durthu. Tons of synergy there, restoring his vigor, restoring his HP with sweet berry wine. Bow, bow, boo. Healing never felt this good. And that's a Tempest on Mannfred von Karstein and his zombie dragon dueling the forest dragon, and that could get pretty scary for Manny. I think he's probably going to try to escape from that as soon as he can. Fireball following it up. Wasn't overcast though, so he didn't take an obscene amount of damage there. He'll be able to Invocation to hack himself back up to full, but yeah, that hurt a little bit. Probably wants to be a little bit less aggressive as the Imperial attackers start getting near these walls. I mean, just a couple of volleys from the War Wagons themselves could probably force him off. Treeman Ancient and Durthu are looking healthy right now, and if they do get in a sticky situation, Sweet Berry Wine, and of course, those Apotheosis heals. Spam those on a Treeman or on Durthu, and that will help tremendously in keeping them out grinding the vampire counts, who can struggle against large armored single entity monsters like Treemen. The attackers are getting a little bit blobbed up here. Purple Sun Azarius or Wind of Death could really mess up these hammers and flagellants, which have... Yeah, well, here comes Mannfred, and you know he wants to cast something towards this blob. Maybe lining up some kind of breath attack at the moment. Durthu is looking on probably with enjoyment. I don't think he cares too much when the Imperials and when the Dwarfs are torn asunder by corrosive acid. Yes, indeed, that was a huge breath attack from the Zombo Dragon. Did some great damage to the Ironbreakers, Hammers, and Flagellants, who are now funneling through the breaches and into melee with this, I guess, first wave of infantry. You can see they haven't committed a lot of elite troops up to this point. It's pretty much just been zombies and skeleton warriors, couple Crypt Horrors, the Black Coach, and the Blood Knights. With the Blood Knights and the Black Knights, the various Reavers have already retreated further inside the Citadel, and so it is mostly just chaff in these front ranks, and I think that's a good idea if you're the defenders. You're essentially just trying to wear down the attackers, do some damage, support them with some Crypt Horrors, support them with some of those corpse carts, and allow them to cause these attackers to just get exhausted, getting tired in this fight. Nice little Awakening of the Wood from Ariel. I guess it's Acorn of the Ages is her technical term. And a Sword of Daith has also done some great damage to the Cairn race that were nestled above the ramparts, but I think they've been retreated and are now waiting further back inside the city as well, alongside those Blood Knights. Mannfred still looking on, waiting for another breath attack if an opportunity arises. Crypt Horrors about to degen out. Looks like the corpse cards aren't doing enough. The Unholy Lodestone, usually the one you want to go for, because it gives you the regen in an AoE, which is super nice, and has the most utility across the board. Durthu and the Treeman Ancient stomping their way, using their superior mass alongside the Bullet with Butterfly Wings, as the Hawk Riders and Forest Dragon look to make their play, trying to pad their stats. Yeah, I mean, might not be high value kills, but satisfying to rip apart zombies, that's for sure. Gotta be careful with Mannfred nearby though, but I don't think he wants to take a fight with two Hawk Riders and a Forest Dragon, and Tempest supporting too. Ariel has a huge Winds of Magic pool. I mean, she can cast spells for days. Apotheosis, Tempest, you name it, she can cast it. I don't believe she brought Soul Stealer in this battle, which could have been useful in these kind of blobs that inevitably form around gates, around fortifications. But the Treemen moving into melee. Another Tempest going down, this time clearing off another Fell Bat unit. Flagellant's probably getting blown up by their own busting charges, and Volkmar the Grim is nearby as well. He was in the vanguard when they plunged through that broken section of wall. Hawk Riders going down into melee. Empire, Dwarfs, and Wood Elves teaming up in combination to take down these corpse carts, and it's looking like they will not be able to escape too easily. Black Coach retreating, Mannfred retreating, Hawk Riders and Forest Dragon could maybe kill him off if they could close the gap and tie him down, but Tempest was used on the Fell Bat, so he's probably safe for now. And let's be honest, sieges are not the most competitive of game modes, especially 3v3 on custom map sieges, and it's just not really a place where Lord sniping is encouraged, because these battles are for fun and for cinematic value. They're not super try-hard. People aren't going with the most meta of builds and strategies in these kind of battles. So Mannfred dropping down, another zombie summon coming in, and the corpse cart might just have enough room to escape after the Blood Knights went in. They're trying desperately to get rid of that Necromancer, but they seem to be struggling at the moment, and Mannfred is also free to pull out and get away. So the zombie summons have been fantastic so far. They're doing a great job of exhausting the attackers and forcing them through rank after rank of muck, but those 4 single entities in the van, well, 5 I guess, Forest Dragon, Tree Man Ancient, Durthu, Ariel the Mage Queen, and Volkmar the Grim fighting back to back to back to back to back, and doing a great job establishing a beachhead inside Castle Drachenfels. And now we get to the second causeway and a long uphill trek. This will be quite the climb for the attackers, and the entire way, Blood Knights, Varix Reavers, and the monstrous single entities of the vampire accounts will be plunging downhill, getting additional speed, impetus, and charge bonus. And the attackers are going to take some attrition as they climb this steep hill. See what they can do. Forest Dragon into the Graveguard. Volkmar the Grim nearby. He was just sharing a tender centipede moment with the corpse cart. Necromancer asked Imperial Steed Mouth, chugging along like some single entity monster from hell. But the corpse cart managed to disengage. Volkmar noticed things were getting a bit heretical and popped a chill pill to let that Jade Griffin regen kick in. Forest Dragon taken back to the skies once more. Hawk Riders providing a little bit of overwatch, and Mannfred retreating backwards to the safety of the Vampire Lady, who already took a fireball for her master. Necrotic Breath raining down from the heavens. Didn't do as much damage there as I thought it would, to be honest. That was kind of weird. He was right above the action, and I mean, dealt some damage, just like this Black Knight charge will, but not as impressive as I think maybe it should have been. 1,800 left of the attackers, about 1,400 or so left of the defenders, but of course, that number will change wildly as more zombies are summoned, and their Winds of Magic pool will be massive. I mean, Mannfred has his Sword of Unholy Power. Vlad has a big Winds of Magic pool as well. They've got 1 million Necromancers with Forbidden Rod. My Forbidden Rod has a 15-second cooldown. Blood Knights realized that was probably not the target they want to be charging into. Giant Slayers and even regular Slayers can put the whooping on Blood Knights. I mean, yeah, sure, the Slayers of Karak Kadrin will take a lot of damage, but they'll deal quite a bit more, and that's always going to be a good trade for the Dawi of the Kara's Anchor. Mortar shots coming in. Black Coach and Blood Knights both going in, but this time it's just the very depleted Slayer unit, touching them and immediately disengaging before the mass changes can make an impact. How you want to use cavalry against infantry now. It's a little bit weird, the mass changes. I think there will need to be some tweaking on Creative Assembly's part to make it so heavy cavalry isn't quite so heavily impacted by the reworks to mass. I think that CA sometimes paints with a broad stroke rather than individually looking at each unit archetype and saying, hey, this is how this should go. Because I do think single entities were a little bit abusable, being able to cycle charge infantry formations and being able to disengage so easily. At the same time, I don't think that was such an issue with heavy cavalry, which in campaign at least is considered one of the worst unit archetypes in the game. In multiplayer, obviously, much better. But we're going to double fast forward it here and give it a little bit more time as the Blood Knights and Varix Reavers continue their cycle charging. Hawk Riders, and we've got a full aerial battle going off next to the tower, while Volkmar the Grim and Giant Slayers fighting back to back and in amongst a massive Skeleton Legion with Graveguard support. Benediction rains down from the heavens, Sigmar cursing these hateful undead with his righteous fury, smiting them apart, and Mannfred coming down with the zombie dragon. That could get super scary for Volkmar. Nice fireball coming in, but like, oh my god, dude, I swear, the vampire lady is simping so hard for Mannfred. That's so impressive. She's taken 2 fireballs now, and I'm pretty sure both were intended for Mannfred himself. That's amazing. That's like my favorite vampire lady ever. I don't know why anyone would want to do that, but god damn, look at that. That is... Sometimes you just need to sit back and just enjoy the cinematics of it. That is actually gorgeous. I mean, I love custom siege maps. I love these kind of siege scenarios all the time anyway, but wow. This is a good-looking game. Durthu and Treeman with the synchronized double strike. Graveguard, I don't know how long they can hold against all this fury, all this righteous hatred that has been built up, pent up inside the Ancient for millennia. Sword of Death is unleashed. Ariel the Mage Queen and her war aspect are unleashed. And the Vargulf says, get me out of here, my lord. Those are some angry trees. Now, the Empire and Dwarf firepower has not really been brought to bear to its fullest potential yet. Oh, I'm sorry, Slayer, you're going for a ride on the Funky Town train. It looked painful. Pendulum coming down. Nice one from the Vampire Lady. Yeah, attacker's getting a little bit blobbed up here, but the Vargulf taking a ton of damage, as it should, in and amongst Giant Slayers and a bunch of armor-piercing troops. But the Empire and Dwarf cannons, flame cannons, organ guns, mortars, have not really fired a whole lot, and have not done a whole lot of damage up to this point. At that second wall might be where they can finally make their presence felt. Forest Dragon, Ungrim, Iron Fist fighting back-to-back, dealing with the remnants of these Graveguard. Only 53 models left in them. The Hawk Riders are still alive. Black Coach has been awesome, but I think it wants to retreat at this point, and they are going to get further up that hill. Yeah, they're all moving backwards now. Gyro Bomber providing close aerial support, but we'll wait for the blobs to form, which probably won't happen until we reach that second gate. Now, Ariel has an important mission to attend to at the moment. We were talking about how the Von Karstein sub-faction has their own section of flyers waiting on the wings, literally. Yeah, Ariel wants them gone. Big overcast Tempest, Hawk Riders, and the Forest Dragon jumping in, and those Vorgeist were full HP. They've been forgotten about, and now they will crumble out of existence. Great pick from Ariel the Mage Queen there, and it's looking like the steroid-infused Vampire Flyers, well, at least one of those units is gone, not really doing a whole lot of anything. 2 kills. Not great value there. Now, the attackers moving past the Spectral Tower, and they are finally at the second gatehouse. Terrorgeist fighting some Slayers. That's the severely depleted unit. I don't think they can do enough damage to make that Terrorgeist care, and of course it has the regen, so they've got bonus for Slurge. It decides to nope the hell on out of there and re-engage somewhere else. The Graveguard have a perfect view of what's happening below, and they have a perfect opportunity to get blown into smithereens by the War Wagon mortars, dropping explosives from downtown and carving the Barrow Legion apart, thinning their numbers and hopefully allowing the forces of order to gather a foothold at this second wall. Fortunately, this section of defense appears to be unscalable with ladders at the moment, and I don't believe that is intentional. So if Ranger the map creator happens to be watching this, there you go. Hopefully something can be done about that, because being able to climb this ladder or these walls would be a nice thing. But the gates and walls can still be targeted by artillery, so that is #1 priority at the moment. Get out of this choke point, get out of this killing field, and take the fight to the undead near the final capture point. Ungrim, Iron Fist leading the charge this time in and amongst the Barrow Legion skeleton warriors, and making good account of themselves here. Axe of Dargo may be meant for killing monsters, but if you can kill monsters, you can carve up Skelly Boys all day. Dragon Cloak of Fiskar should certainly help keep them tanky and survivable in and amongst those Skelly Boys as well. So the second stage of this assault is well underway. While that happens, there's been a bit of a strike in the rear. Remember that spectral ambush I was talking about earlier? Well, the Chillgeist Hex Race and the Care Race just sprang their ambush, and they are causing some havoc in the rear. Got a clean charge into the Glade Riders with Azrai Spears. Finished off that unit. Well, mostly finished them off. Might be able to do so now. Terror route imminent for the Azrai Light Cav. And the Cairn Race now going straight for the artillery, and the attackers were not ready for this. They were hidden completely behind that cliff. They had no vision of it whatsoever. Now the strike is coming in, and it's paying dividends for the vampire accounts at the moment. But the ambush has been spotted. Longbeard's moving forward, and with their magic resist, they should do quite well against the scything talons and blades of these spectral units. Look at that shot. Got the sun shining in the background. This isn't Twilight, man. Warhammer vampires don't sparkle with a little bit of sun. They get a nice tan, and they butcher your artillery crews. That's how they do it. The Hex Race, not having a wonderful time of it. Great Stags and a Forest Dragon charge from the rear, proving to be way too much for them. They'll crumble out quickly, but the Karen Race are doing a pretty good job, and ooh, friendly fire. I think that's going to the Book of Grudges. I mean, I can't imagine what a dwarf would do if he saw himself insta-jib and immolate his own Longbeard brethren, but I imagine he probably takes, well, he probably takes a Slayer Oath and heads on over to Karak Kadrin and join Ungrim the Iron Fist's army. Yeah, that's not ideal. You don't want to be blowing up your own troops with Iron Drake Flame. It's a horrible way to die. Gromeral armor only goes so far. But Indy Pride, I hear you say. Why'd you turn corpses off? You have a 3080. Dog would be at like 15 FPS right now after 3,000 summoned zombies met their end. This is not a well-optimized game, guys. It's demanding. You could have the most amazing computer on planet Earth, and in a Total War battle with 6,000 models, you'll be pulling maybe 45 FPS when lots of stuff is happening on screen. That's just the reality of it. Talked about it before. I'd really rather not have to keep explaining it, and I keep seeing comments about permanent corpses, and I'll make it clear one more time. FPS is more important to a good viewer experience than bodies that stay forever. I will keep corpses on when I can do so with minimal impact on performance, but if we're in a scenario like this one, where we'd be 20, 30, 40 FPS lower, that's obviously not worth it. So trust in me, I know what I'm doing. I'll turn corpses on whenever it makes sense to do so. This is not one of those times. Hopefully, I'll never have to talk about it again, but I'm sure I will. Okay, end rant. Great Stags, clearing up the zombies in the back. There is still a sneaky Necromancer back there, continuing to exhaust all these elite Azrai troops, but it's padding their stats and giving them a good kill count, so it's all worth it. Great Stags love running over some zombos. Managed to kill off some of the artillery, not all of it. Flame cannons and the dwarf cannon crews all firing in, trying to take down the walls, and Ariel the Mage Queen waiting to plunge into the thick of it again with the Durthu and her Tree Man Ancient buddy. The attackers are through. Vampire counts being pushed back further and further inside Castle Drachenfels, and a lot of it at this point has to do with the elite single entities. Of course, they've been in the vanguard the entire way. They've taken a couple breaks so far to let, I love that animation so much, man. Just straight up crushes that dude. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Tree Men and Durthu took some time to let their stamina regenerate. If they're fighting the entire time, they'll be exhausted the entire time. Give them a minute, minute and a half to cool off and get their vigor back to winded at the very least, and you'll see a big uptick in how much damage they can output. There are huge malices for letting your units get exhausted, and single entities will do way better when they are fresh. So, looks like they're gathering up near the third capture point. A lot of defenders still left alive, and they're actually still putting pressure in the rear as well. Some zombie summons and maybe a Vargulf back there. The mortars and another Dart of Doom raining down, hitting the Blood Knight, and this time killing a single model. Yeah, it's literally just one Blood Knight died in that cast, so a little bit less effective this time with the magic missile. and she only has 2 casts of those, I believe. Fort Tower Falls, and that does count as a capture point. So if you capture 3 of them, you start winning quickly. Something we're probably going to want to avoid because we want an actual battle and not a win on capture points. Durthu coming in with a swipe from the rear. Graveguard against Blade Dancers. Not a fight they'd win anyway, but certainly won't help that Ungrim Iron Fist and Durthu Oakhart are fighting on their flank. A couple of swings from the Sword of Death will be more than enough, and a Great Stag charge might just make it completely untenable for the vampire counts here. Now, all their lords and Krell are still alive. Volkmar the Grim, the Emperor's finest steam tank, Durthu, Ariel, Forest Dragon, all the single entities are coming in. They're swarming, Blood Knights are getting committed, and now things are going to start getting really interesting. Lamentation of Despair, another nut from Ariel coming in. She's dropping her Acorn of the Ages. Blood Knights trying to disengage, but they're slowed by 48%. You can see they can barely move right now. They're taking a lot of damage, but here come the Flyers. Oh, those von Karstein Flyers, they've been so sneaky for so long. They're on top of the mortars, and they have nowhere to go. The Devils of Schwarzhofen, living up to their name, bringing death to the Empire backline, and some friendly fire taking out the wagons, too. Dwarf cans are like, screw your wagons, and screw your Vargeis. I want you away. And away they will go. But they did exactly what they were meant to do. Take out some artillery, now head further back into the rear lines of these attackers. Finish off even more than artillery, and maybe get rid of all the cannon crews for good. They've been waiting 37 minutes for that strike, and it just might pay off considering the cannons have really not fired much this battle at all. They're swooping in and dealing tremendous amounts of damage here. There are some great swords in reserve. Pretty good idea to hang on to some infantry and cav in the back of the map to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen. But yeah, the Great Stags, the Azrai Spear Glade Riders, and most of the highly mobile stuff are fighting over in the Citadel, past that second set of walls. So these cannons are inundated and swarmed, being feasted upon, and all they can do is sit and watch helplessly as these great swords are run over. Remember, Vargeis got AP in the most recent patch. They hit a lot harder against elite infantry and elite cav now, and that's going to help them a lot in a fight like this one. Now, in a straight up fight, Vargeis will probably not be great swords, but with some cycle charging, they deal more than enough damage. And oh my god, the friendly fire from the skeleton towers taking out one of the devils. But yeah, I think these great swords were already pretty depleted. The Vargeis are fresh, they're being committed for the first time, and they're jibbing these great swords, and as long as they draw a breath, Vargeis might die, but they're not killing them fast enough to matter. Towers not helping either. Here we go, the final assault on the final capture point. Durthu, Ariel, and the Tree Men leading the charge as they have done since time immemorial. Constant Drachenfels cackling from his towers above, watching, waiting, commiserating. Vlad in the back. Terrorgeist, Fellbats, and a lot of gothic, creepy, vampiric architecture. In the shadow of the Great Enchanter, the fate of this world shall be decided, or at least the fate of these 3 factions. Terror Goose and Breath from downtown, heading the Blade Dancers and decapitating one of these poor gingers. She may not have had a soul, but she did have a heart, and that heart is broken. So is her brain stem. Oh my god. What a horrible way to die. Probably pretty quick, but not great. And here comes Ariel. Here comes Durthu. Here comes the Tree Man. And here comes the great battle of our time. 813 to 614. About 200 models or so left more on the Forces of Order side compared to the vampires, but of course, there'll probably be more zombie summons. And there's a Mortis engine, there's the Claw of Nagash, there's a lot of powerful single entities, and most of the important vampiric troops are still alive. Vlad, straight in to the Blade Dancer. He doesn't give a crap, he's a honey badger. He's YOLOing straight in, Forest Dragon on top of him, Flagellant swarming. See if they can out-damage him. Remember, he's got that von Karstein ring, that crazy ward save, and a lot of regen, so killing him not going to be easy, and he's always using that to lay up a Penumbral Pendulum and a Wind of Death, and it was a huge one. Oh my god. The Blade Dancers, Flagellants, and the remnants of whatever was surrounding Vlad just got destroyed. They didn't commit a whole lot to him in terms of infantry. Most of that stuff was already depleted, but and insta-jibbed a big section of what did, and that was pretty entertaining to watch. That was a bloodstorm, if I've ever seen one. Another Terragoose breath coming down on the elite dwarf infantry. Krell, Heinrich Kemmler, Mannfred von Karstein, all watching, all going in, ready to fight that steam tank. Forest Dragon doesn't really want to fight Krell, to be honest. He's fresh and he's full HP. And now this is really where it comes down to the single entity monsters. Volkmar the Grim is low. I believe that Jade Griffin has already hit him to the healing cat. This battle's been going on for a while. Soporific Breath coming down. Dealt some decent damage to the Grave Guard, but nothing to write home about. Here come the duels. Rear charge, Great Stags getting rid of the Fell Bats, which is important actually at this point because you need the range troops to stay online. The silver bullets, the crossbows, all that stuff could deal a lot of damage to the Terrorgeist and the Vargulfs if they can stay alive. Blood Knight staying on the capture point for now. Balance bar in favor of the vampire counts, but it's irrelevant. It's really just about whether Durthu, the Tree Man, Volkmar, and the steam tanks can do enough to carry this victory. Vampire counts struggle to deal with unbreakable, large, single-entity monsters, like steam tanks, like Durthu, like Ariel the Mage Queen. Getting through all that might be hard for them, but they do have Vargulfs, they do have Vlad, they do have Krell. Like I said, he's fresh. What about them? They're fresh. And that zombie dragon with Mannfred overhead. I don't believe he has any more breath attacks left, but some psychocharging from him would certainly hurt the forces of order. I think Volkmar's one hit from death at this point. Ungrim's beginning to drop low, and Lamentation of Despair into the middle of the undead blob is exactly what you like to see, but Durthu's outnumbered right now. Durthu is face-tanking the entire Vampire Count's army in a huge charge coming in from the flank from that Black Coach. That was 11 or 12 kills and quite a few more. Just insta-slaughtering whole sections of the Imperial range troops battle line. Volkmar doesn't want to go in, but he kind of has to at this point. You can see he's hesitant, but that one strike could be all that's required to send a bunch of Imperials running without their leader. 569 HP, yeah, that's about 2 hits from Vlad. Would be all that's required to finish him off. Does have that word save though. Great Stags going in, FPS dropping. That's how we do it, baby. Even with corpses off, still having FPS problems here. It's glorious, man. You don't get this in any other game. In any other franchise, Total War Sieges are something special, especially when you get a nice map. It's why we do these custom map siege scenarios. They're so much fun to play, so much fun to watch, and we aren't done yet. The RKO from Durthu on the Vargulf. Ungrim trying to run circles around Krell the Necromancer and Heinrich Kemmler, just trying desperately to escape while the steam tanks and cannons fire in. That's absolutely hilarious. Slayer King just saying, I can make a bigger impact elsewhere. I don't want to die to Krell, not yet. Meanwhile, Jake Paul and Nate Robinson showing everybody how to box. They're having a little bit of a slap fight over there in the corner. I think the Vargulf will lose that one as Ariel just went flying literally 50 feet. What is up with her mass, dude? She is huge, but she gets knocked over every 5 seconds. That's insane. A Vargulf literally pimp-handed her 50 feet. Oh, she went flying again. She's going flying, my dude. Silver bullets firing in on top of the Claw of Nagash. Great Stags with their goring antlers coming in with the charge. Oh, is Volkmar dead? Volkmar's gone. Volkmar has fallen, and he can't get up. Donsmar continues to swing a little bit more into Vampire Count's favor, but all the most important troops are still alive. Ungrim just decapitated that Necromancer. And the forces of order are still in this fight. Durthu, 330 kills. He has been a force this battle. Ungrim going after that corpse cart. But the Forest Dragon comes in with the kill steal. No, you don't get this glory. This is all mine. And you know with Forest Dragons, they're all about that glory. They're sentient. They know. He knows what he just did. He knows he stole that from the Slayer King. It's all about glory hounding now. It's also about making sure Drachenfels can be raised down to the foundation. The biggest SEM blob you have ever seen. Everything getting committed. Iron Drake fire spewing forth, melting these Graveguard into Age of Sigmar. Can the forces of order hold? Their artillery is still online. It's still shooting in on the Mortis engine and all the important stuff. But Vlad and some of these single entities might be really hard to kill. What happened to Mannfred? Where's Manny Fresh? Mannfred must be dead, or he's hanging back. Looks like he's hanging back, actually. Yeah, I see his shadow there in the background. Klav Nagash just dropped to a strike from Ariel. Oh no, army losses is kicking in. Durthu's routing, the Forest Dragon's routing, the Tree Man's routing, and Ariel is all that is left. After Ungrim died, the forces of order could hold no longer, and now it is only up to the protector of nature herself. One last glorious last stand for the Mage Queen as the Blood Knights, the Black Knights, and Manny Fresh come her way. I guess there are 3 darts of doom because she's got 1 more to share with the world. Didn't do a whole lot. Killed 1 Black Knight. The Dire Pack with their bonus for Slorge. Varys Reavers, the Black Coach with his 100 charge bonus. Oh, she's getting tossed like a ragdoll. Her salad, tossed. Her body, tossed. It is over for the Wood Elves, the Empire, and the Dwarfs, but they made good account of themselves here. It just proved to be a little bit too much. My god, she is melting. 222 kills, but that will be the last of Orion's lover and the Avatar of Isha. She is gone. What a cinematic battle it was. We have not done a custom siege scenario on this channel in quite a while, but I'm glad we put this one together to see Durthu, Ariel, Treeman Ancient, and the Forest Dragon get obscene damage value. 6,000 for Durthu, 6,400 for the Forest Dragon, and Silver Chevron to earn 30,000 damage dealt. The infantry, not so hot, but that's to be expected in these sieges. Infantry is really there just to meet shield and die. It's what happens when you're trying to climb over walls. You're getting blown up by artillery and spells. We saw that the Vampire last stand there was quite sturdy. Vlad managed to hold and got a great Wind of Death on pretty much a full strength unit of Blade Singers, which was impressive in and of itself. The Steam Tank earned 2 chevrons. Volkmar with 368. Bright Wizard with 109. And the Necromancer play was an interesting one, and one that I think ended up working quite well. Paid huge dividends for the defenders of Constant Drachenfels' home turf. The fact that the attackers had to work their way through what amounted to about 4,500 troops worth of zombie summons meant that most of their important units were exhausted by the time they got to the end. Yeah, it's an interesting strategy, one that wouldn't work in a normal open field scenario, but in a siege where you're funneled down these narrow choke points and have to fight a long way to get to the final Citadel, it's something that can absolutely work, and I think it was a good idea from recurring extra here. See the dwarf kill counts as well. Nothing incredibly impressive, but 142 on Ungrim is nice, and he dealt some great damage there. But yeah, fighting in the Vanguard certainly helped the Wood Elves pad their stats. 222, 330, 195, 219. Lots of kills to be had. Lots of cinematics to be had. It was a fun one for sure. But for now, Constant Drachenfels and his castle remain a problem.